Bob Huffman, who will speak about Kaingiora and the council's building codes. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Margaret, and thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you and to the members of the council.
Yeah, take care.
I, over the past fortnight, have tried to contact you several times through the email, but when I've tried to send the emails, it has been frozen. My emails have been frozen. And quite candidly, I'll tell you that I suspect that it is a New Zealand government entity that is responsible for that freezing of my emails. That entity is the New Zealand Government Communications Security Bureau, who has done that in the past. I sent an email on the 25th of May to yourself and to all your councilors. Is there anyone who did not receive my email on that sent on the 25th? Did you receive it? You didn't receive it. Okay. Then thank you for that acknowledgement. Okay, everyone else has received it, but I have had no reply. And if you want a copy of it, I have a copy here that I can provide you, Councillor Skendrick, after the meeting. I only have one copy now, but I can do that after the meeting. Because my emails have been blocked, yesterday I came to my council offices, and downstairs the staff was very considerate and allowed me to write a letter in ink, which cannot be blocked by the Government Communications Security Bureau. And so this is to Amy Davidson, who's been handling this matter. Good afternoon, Ms. Davidson. In response to your recent email, I now write, with reference to the Local Government Official Information Act and the provisions therein, I request that you provide me with a copy of the email that was sent to the Canterbury Regional Offices of Kaingiora by a member of your CCC staff. I would have thought that, as a matter of courtesy, I would have been copied into that correspondence, and herewith request any future correspondence from Christchurch City Council or CCC staff sent to any officer of Kaingiora be with a CC or copy to me when the subject of that correspondence has to do with me. I think that's completely reasonable. Right. These are the documents relating to the building at 218 Stanmore Road, the plumbing, and this is from your Regulatory Services Department downstairs, and I appreciate their assistance about 3 weeks ago. They're very helpful, and I told him what the problem was, and I showed him the letters that I had sent to Andrew McKenzie, who's the Chief Executive Officer of Kaingiora, Chris Bishop, who is the Minister of Housing, and Christopher Luxon. So they gave me these, which shows that the building is in compliance, the plumbing is in compliance. You will have seen, everyone except for Mr. Skendrick will have seen the photographs of the photographs of my shower cubicle, which has been flooded with raw sewage. I'm not happy about that. I accept that it's the malicious and deliberate wrongful actions of my upstairs neighbor. Still, the building is in compliance with regulations. And so this allows that to happen. And I mean, who would do stuff like this? Who would do stuff like this? This is a New Zealander. He's my neighbor. I am really irate about this. Anyway, I've been dealing with Kaingiora for the first instance, I guess, was in May of 2023, the first time. that the flooding occurred. And the next time was in November of 2023. And this is the sequence of correspondence. And I sent this, actually, I didn't send this to you in your in the letter of the 25th, but I sent it to Amy Davidson. She has a copy of it. And so if any of you want a copy of it, this is the correspondence that I've had with Liz Krause, who is the regional director of Kaingora in Canterbury, or in South Island as well. So you're welcome to get a copy of that from Miss Davidson. She will have that somewhere on her file. I don't know if any of you have seen it or not. But basically, that's what I have to say. And what is really concerning now is that my communication with you is being blocked by the New Zealand government. I mean, this is just, free and frank conversation that should not be blocked. I have a right to speak. I'm not using any profanity. I feel like it, but I need to communicate with you, and I don't want to take up much time. So I just have one final statement to say, and that is, Mayor Monger and councillors of the Christchurch City Council, this issue is not going to vanish into the mist. You can count on it. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to address you this morning.
Thank you very much, Bob. Good on you. Thank you. I will get. I'll talk to consortium. There's got to be something simple here that's causing.
And Bob, I've got the emails now. Yanni sent them through. So
Okay.
thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. It's okay. Because we have, Bob, just to put you in the picture, Bob, we have, Otatahi Housing Trust have a lot of houses built by consortium. There must be something half simple that is causing this grief. It can't be, it's got to be able to be fixable, surely.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
building code issue. It seems like it's a building code issue.
Thank you.
That's how the council, in my first email that I sent to council, I said, you may ask how you're involved. Well, it's building code. And,
I'll look into it, man. Good on you.
Thank you, sir.
Next, we will hear from Donald Gould, who will make a public forum about Life in Christchurch survey and the notice of motion regarding infrastructure delivery. He will also make a deputation regarding item 7, the Otakaro Avon Stormwater Management Plan. Don has 10 minutes. Thank you.
Morning, Your Worship. I thought I had 15, but I was told by staff I've got 15, but I'm trying to get through this in 2 minutes and 15 seconds. So if you want to start the timer, let's see if I can achieve that. The Mayor has thankfully introduced the survey, so I won't even cover that. City Life survey. Folks, members, I received, one of you reached out to express that you'd received a number of complaints about this survey and asked if I'd completed it and had a look at it, which I hadn't, to be honest. I'd seen the reminder in my email a couple of times. So I did dive into it and reviewed it and had a few thoughts, and then I thought I'd reach out to a few other friends to also complete it and give me a bit of feedback. So today I've come here to present that. The survey, in my view, is not good. It's biased. It attempts to direct thinking rather than gathering thought. It's antagonistic in places. It shows poor attempt at social engineering. It's way too long. If you're of climate faith, you're going to love this survey. But if you're not, or you're on the fence, then you'll frankly fatigue quite quickly. It pulls the reputation of the council down, in my view. Moving on. Members, there's a variety of feedback on the screen. This presentation will be in the minutes, I'm sure, so I'm not going to labour this one. I'm just going to let you go and have a look at it, make up your own mind, review the survey. Motion of notice on infrastructure delivery working group. This one for me is timely. Thank you, Councillor Kewen, for bringing this to the table. My recent experience with a project that has shown issues with a couple of council policies on the table at present. I'm not going to go into that particular issue, but it aligns from my point of view. I urge members to support this motion today, if for no other reason to redraw staff attention and members' attention to our procurement policies. Look, members, I know that policies are sometimes very frustrating, and I've sat in meetings recently where staff have kind of expressed that they want to go one direction because it's just quicker and faster and easier than perhaps going down the right path, or at least what was a right path in my opinion. We create these policies for a reason, and then we go to actually execute them and we find them inconvenient, so we kind of try and work around them. Maybe we shouldn't do the policy in the first place if we're just not going to adhere to them. So this is timely. Moving on, the Atakaro stormwater, I'm not making time, am I? The Atakaro Avon stormwater management plan. My main message in my written submission was get on with it. My message today is to listen to the engaged public. You as a council spend too much time standing at an apple tree, looking up, wanting to pick every apple and starting with the ones at the top of the tree while ignoring the apples on the ground and the easy low-hanging fruit. I want you to focus on listening to and engaging with the key community members who are engaged with this issue. Actually, frankly, that's not me. But today you're going to hear from other members of the public who it very much is, who have extensive networks across the city and across the region. And if there is real reason for more community uprising and more community engaging, I trust those members of the public will actually bring that to your table. You don't need to spend all day foraging for it from people who don't really want to engage. And that's my lot.
Goodness gracious. Well done.
Thank you.
Is time for some questions, if anyone wants to ask Don any questions? Councillor Templeton, because we're on.
Kia ora, thanks for that, Don. Actually, just a point on your last point about focusing on those people who are already engaged with council. What we sometimes hear from people, and we do during lots of consultations, is that we actually don't reach out enough in our consultations and reach people who don't normally engage with council, and that we should be doing things in a much more engaging way rather than having the same residents talk to us all the time. What do you think about that?
Absolutely disagree with that position. I will concede, I used to be of that ilk. Absolutely. And you know that.
Yeah, which is why it was a change.
But one of the things that I've grown up and matured a little bit on this, I feel, maybe I have, maybe I haven't. I'll leave that. Yes, the jest, thank you. The reality is the biggest problem in engagement I believe we have in this city right now, we have two fundamental problems, Councillor. One is that people are scared of council. You are a very large, very, very toothed organisation. Is my presentation today going to compromise the consents that my friends have got on the table? Now, I don't think that any of you are going to answer yes to that, but I can tell you that my friends say they're concerned about speaking up because they're concerned about being cancelled. The other problem is as a community, we are like, well, Hayley's sitting there waiting to speak next. She speaks beautifully, articulately. I'll just let her speak for me. I'm not as good as she is. I don't speak as eloquently. I don't speak as well. I don't know as much about the topic as she does. So it's not really my place to step up. Vicky Buck challenged me for a long time on these issues. She said, Don, on social media, if you feel strongly about the issue, come and make a deputation, come and make a public forum. And I was like, well, you guys are really important. I don't think I'm not important enough to be addressing you. Or am I?
Yeah.
Clearly my view has changed on that. But I think that the general public, many of them, I certainly did, I felt like this is not my place to speak.
Yeah. So, but you've changed your mind on that, and I'm wondering if there's a role then that you can play in encouraging others to do the same and actually tell people it's not as bad as you think.
Yes, absolutely there is. But that in some respects needs to come with some endorsement. And I would suggest to all of you as members, when you see members of the public actually stepping up, that you do encourage that. And yes, I will take that comment and run with it.
Thank you.
Councillor Scandrett.
Yeah, look, we nationally with local bodies, we spend a lot of government spends a huge amount of money for the local elections, trying to get everybody to vote. On average, it's about 42%. There are a lot of people that are just too busy, or they kind of think, okay, I've got an opinion, but generally we're going in the right direction, or don't believe in something, or just they're busy. So with the feedback we get, what do you think your opinion of us using it is? Because that's, we're not going to get 100% feedback on everything because people are busy. But what do you think with the information that we get from those who choose to make contact with us? What do you think of your opinion on that?
Councillor, without appearing rude, I actually thought about a question similar to this morning, so I'm going to answer that this way. Members, do you think that the councillor's question was rude, A, B, very rude, C, or extremely rude, or D, a collection of all of the above? Do you notice how in my question, and I apologise for the insinuation, but do you notice in my question how I have framed the question? On my YouTube channel, I posted a video from Yes Prime Minister. It's a TV show from the late 70s, 80s about national service. And Sir Humphreys presents two different ways of framing 5 questions to get you to either say, yes, national service is great, or no, national service is terrible. I framed a question in such a way that I backed all of you into a corner to simply, and I know all of you would, if you had to choose an answer, you would likely choose the answer that minimises the least amount of offence, but then allows me to pigeonhole you all as regarding the member's question as offensive. And then you will lead on to that political argy-bargy to suggest that the member is consistently offensive, using this narrative that I've created in a survey. And this is what I was getting at in this slide, members, is that these questions in some of these things, they're not well thought out. Now, I have quite a bit of experience with surveys and with the concept of surveys. I remember engaging through Internet New Zealand about 20 odd years ago and saying, why the hell are we asking survey questions? And the team came back to me at the time and they said, look, surveys aren't just about gathering responses. They're also about making people stop and consider those issues. And this survey on the climate and city life, the climate change initiative, definitely does that. But you have to be careful to not drive people away from the table. You'll see from the responses that I had people actually say, yes, they'd looked at it and they're not doing it. I've had other people say to me, yes, they receive our surveys. Thank you, timer. Subtle. I've had other people say, yes, they've received the surveys, etc. And they're not doing any more surveys because the last survey they did burnt them off.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Don. That's a good presentation. Thank you. I actually went down the survey about a week ago, and some of the things I certainly agree with you. In the end, I lost interest because it was sort of wasn't me, but that's me. So thank you very much.
Then how is your information going to be used, Your Worship? How are you going to be presented? Because I guarantee you, Your Worship, even if you didn't finish the survey, that system is also collecting the amount of information that you did submit, even though you didn't get to the end.
Thank you very much.
Equally a concern.
Good on you. Thank you, bud. Okay, next we're into deputations now. Christchurch International Airport. I'd like to welcome Jess, who is here to speak on behalf of Christchurch International Airport regarding item 7. Welcome.
Tēnā koutou, thank you all. So my name is Jesse Amer and I am the Senior Environment and Planning Advisor here at Christchurch International Airport. And this is my colleague Felicity Hayman, who is the Environment and Planning Manager. And as his Honour said, today we are here to speak on behalf of the airport in support of the Otakaro Avon Stormwater Management Plan. So Christchurch International Airport, as I'm sure you're aware, is the largest airport in the South Island and the second largest in New Zealand. We're nationally significant infrastructure and a key transport, employment and energy node for Canterbury. Just under 7 million passengers pass through our airport each year, and over 9,000 people are employed on the airport's campus. We're also a critical freight hub. The airport's interests within the Otokaikino Avon catchment relates to the consideration of bird strike in the planning and specific design of stormwater management basins. Bird strike is when a bird or a flock of birds collides with an aircraft, which, as I'm sure you can appreciate, can damage an aircraft and in many instances forces an emergency landing. The ongoing management of bird strike risk in this catchment is of crucial importance to the safe operation of Christchurch Airport, with large parts of this catchment being within the flight paths where planes and birds share airspace. Therefore, the creation of new large bodies of water may attract new high-risk species within this area, with these basins acting as an attractive new home or halfway hotel. So this stormwater management plan is an important tool to drive, firstly, awareness of bird strike risk within the community, and then also support how this risk can be mitigated through the planning and design of new stormwater basins. Fundamentally, the airport has really appreciated the ongoing dialogue that we've had with the council through this plan, including the recognition of bird strike in other stormwater management plans that have been put through recently. And we're in particular supportive of bird strike risk management as it is recorded in this plan. And in this plan, that includes both a map and description of the bird strike management areas in this catchment. And we've also worked with council to include stormwater basin design guidelines that take bird strike management into account in the design of those basins. So why are we here today? The sort of primary reason is to thank the council and Paul Dixon and his team in particular for the positive engagement that we've had on the stormwater management plan. Incorporating bird strike risk into these documents is making a difference both within the council and within people coming to the airport. And so there's been recently a lot of work with parties to ensure that their stormwater infrastructure is designed in a way that also mitigates any bird strike risk. So this is really awesome. And continuing on this trajectory is really important. In relation to this plan, we continue to advocate for two things. Firstly, just a couple of brief references to bird strike within the front end of the plan, so this issue is clearly and easily communicated to any users of this document. And secondly, an inclusion of an action plan within the document requiring council to keep records of all stormwater basins constructed within this catchment and records shared between the council and the airport. And we'll continue to work with Paul and his team to achieve these outcomes outside of this process. So the airport would like to thank you all for your time and the opportunity to speak to you today, and we're happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Absolutely, and thank you very much. Councillor Keown.
Yeah, welcome, and thank you for your deputation. So just a couple of questions on, is anyone doing work on species risk, i.e. different birds fly at different heights, and if some are in flight paths, and the one species that's been in the news recently is the dreaded Canadian geese. So is someone doing work on species, and what are the risk species, and then what are their habitats that are encouraged or discouraged in flight paths?
Yes, so the airport...
Rather than just saying all birds. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So there is we do have expert advice on the types of birds. So there are a few high-risk species, and obviously this is focused on stormwater, but there are other land uses that attract high-risk species, and so our focus is primarily on those high-risk species. And
do you have a hierarchy?
Yes, there is a hierarchy. Yes.
Who's at the top?
So Canada geese
Yeah,
are at
Canada
the top.
geese. It's Canada geese, pigeon, plovers.
Right.
Um,
Okay, and so on that, do you think the airport might be interested in helping fund culls of Canada geese?
I think our wildlife manager is actually working with the council and with a large group of stakeholders on the management of Canadian geese. We do a fair bit of work on the airport and with our closest neighbours on management of Canadian geese.
Right.
But if you want to reach out outside of this, we can have a chat and see what.
Because we're looking for a festival sponsor for the Cook the Goose festival starting next year. We're going to invite chefs to take in all these culled geese and cook them up for people as a festival, and there'll be comedy attached.
That's a good idea.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anyone else with a question? Thank you very much, Jessie. Pauline, sorry.
Just scrolling through trying to find it, but did I read that you are not quite in agreement with the council around the size and positioning of the basins? Or are you fine with what we're planning?
This is more to do with the. Are you talking about a specific basin than the catchment?
Yeah.
So the engagement and the purpose of the management plan is to highlight where there's areas where stormwater basins might be built either by council or by developers, and put forward a design guide around some parameters that will help manage bird strike risk.
Yeah.
So it's sort of a placeholder to enable anyone who's building a stormwater basin to come in to understand what the parameters are to help manage that bird strike risk, and to have a conversation with the airport on how we might manage that together and what the overall risk picture looks like. Because one of the main things about bird strike risk management is understanding what are our high risk species birds, how do they behave, and how does any proposed change in the existing environment interact with their behaviour. So if we have an existing basin over here, say north of the Waimakariri, and then we have someone who's proposing to put a large basin slightly south of the Waimakariri River and maybe on the other side of the runway, what does that mean for the behaviour of birds, and will it encourage birds to fly over the flight path? And if that's the case, then we would want to work with the developer to understand what some mitigation options were.
And you're quite happy that council's working with you on that proposal? And the data that you want recorded around the basins is all about birds, numbers of birds and species?
It's more of a placeholder to start to make developers enable awareness of the issue, so that project planning can happen really early on. Because in essence, the airport just wants to work with our neighbours to ensure that any changes in land uses, the risk of bird strike risk is understood and managed, and whether that is we work with the landowner around more site inspections, more culling events, or if we get in early enough, how can we understand and balance stormwater management requirements. Also understanding that from a existing environment perspective, the areas northeast of the airport have actually some challenging underlying groundwater conditions, so getting rid of water is actually quite hard. So all of those things need to be balanced, and there needs to be a solution that enables development to happen but also manages that risk to the aircraft.
And have you talked to council about gathering that data, and is there an issue with resource to do that? And if so, would you be prepared to partner?
So we collect the data ourselves at the moment.
Yep.
And I think in the past, our wildlife officers have worked with the council. So there's an element of working together that goes on. Yeah.
That's good
Thank
to know.
you. And lastly, Councillor Barber, please.
Yeah, thanks for coming in. I'm just wondering if you could give us a bit of context on bird strikes in the last 5 or 10 years. Do you have any sort of data on that?
Yeah. We do actually. So we have quite an extensive wildlife management team that do work on airport and off airport, and collect data on bird species that are seen, if they're a potential risk, if they are a risk. Every single bird strike or near miss also gets reported. So there's a process with CAA and with all the airlines around reporting that. I don't have the statistics on the top of my head, sorry, but we do have all of that information.
Yeah.
And most of the airports across New Zealand do the same.
Yeah. Do you have a vague idea have there been any strikes in the last 5 to 10 years?
Yes, definitely.
There has been.
Yep.
Okay.
Strikes actually happen more regularly than the public
Wow.
would realise. If you see a strike that's reached the media, or has happened, what happened in Queenstown earlier this week, that's there's generally been quite a few other ones that have happened that don't get so much media attention.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming in. That's
Thank
brilliant.
you.
Okie doke. So now we have Hayley from Avenue Takaro Network who will speak regarding item 7.
Sit here and I can control the thing. Morena, Mr Mayor and councillors, thank you for the opportunity to verbally speak on item 7 of today's meeting. So anyway, I'll kick into it. So the Avon Takaro River Corridor catchment is actually fairly large and significant. It takes up almost 2/3 of the urban environment in Christchurch, and there's a lot of talk about the red zone and the great work that's going on there to help with our stormwater systems. But as you can see, the red zone is actually only a small component of our catchment, and we're dealing with a lot of urban runoff into our river system. So I'll just flick through this pretty quickly. So you can see that there's a lot of infrastructure work happening in the red zone, but this stormwater management plan is really much focused on the upper catchment, and it doesn't hold a lot of infrastructure components. It's all been pushed out to about 2030, 2031. A lot of what we see in this management plan is to satisfy the global consent, and it really relies on action at source, and I'll get into that in a little bit to talk about that some more. So, so when we look at it in the bigger picture, sorry, that slide's a bit off, we've got to put what we believe is a bit of a disconnect between the great work that's going on in the red zone and the wider catchment in terms of connecting the stormwater management plan up to that work, and also, as I've mentioned, around really looking at what are the problems here, and working at source can be really challenging, and so organisations like ours, or Split 2, are doing our bit. I didn't bring rubbish in today, thankfully, but we are actually up to 8 tonnes of rubbish out of the river. And we're still not really seeing a significant shift from the old rubbish to the new rubbish. And we're also, as I did in my long-term plan submission, we're doing a lot of work ourselves around at-source work. And we're not the only ones. There's lots of organisations across this catchment that are. But I guess what I want to say is that we can do all we like. And this was a video taken 3 weeks ago near Hanson's Lane, to the stream coming out of there. And that is a regular occurrence for us. We're always flagging stuff coming out of the pipes. So we can work really hard, and it's quite disappointing at times. We're working hard out there to clean up our river, and then we have one event that then just takes away all of our work. So I guess in short, I'm going to be real quick so I can get questions. In short, we can do all of this work, but if we don't actually address the problems, then we're not going to get anywhere as a city, and our river is really important to our city. So we need to do better. We need to, and I also want to say before I do this, before I criticise, I want to say that the staff have done a wonderful job in writing this plan, and it is actually fundamentally a good plan. What is missing is a joined up approach between the red zone and the rest of the catchment, an approach between the council and ECAN on actually fining people and catching the people that are actually putting stuff into our river on a regular occurrence. This is a weekly thing that we find ourselves. So if we're seeing it weekly, what is actually happening? We need to really work and figure out how we can work either with the government or bring investment forward in some of that big infrastructure work that needs to happen up catchment. And we need to understand that the Community Waterways Partnership was actually set up to help with this global consent. So the Community Waterways Partner really is the vehicle to help with the at-source work. So it's the vehicle, it's the people that come together, and we have a really great steering group with the Community Waterways Partnership. We've got all of the key community groups, ECAN, the council, we all sit around a table regularly working on this work. but it's under-resourced. So we need to see some resources put into the Community Waterways Partnership so that we can at least help for now, between now and when we can get some money and infrastructure, to help deliver messaging, compliance, and some of the actions that are housed in the stormwater management plan. And finally, I'd really love for you to work with maybe the Department of Justice, and maybe we could 501 the geese back to Canada. That would be awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Righto, thank you very much. Councillor Barber, please.
Thanks, Hayley, and thanks for the work that your group does. It's fantastic. As someone who's kayaked all the way down the river from right up Fendleton Way, could you give us a bit of context on your assessment of the two parts of the river? So I'm going to divide it up from the red zone down, and from sort of the Fendleton area down to there. Just out of 10, the state of the river, 1 being atrocious, 10 being pristine.
In my opinion,
Yeah.
all of it is a 9.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say, actually, apart from the central city, where everything's been, where the water was actually stopped and all the rocks polished,
Yeah.
and it's looking great. Everything else on either side of that, it's not great.
Yeah.
We're facing a tipping point with our river, and if we don't do something about it, it's going to be really hard to recover from.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what I'm trying to say about the red zone works great because it's $300 million of infrastructure that's going to help cleanse the urban environment. That's going to be really hard to do in the upper catchment, and I understand that. And I understand that we need to look at the source work and start tackling at source problems. But we've also got 27 pipes going into that river, and every time we have a big rain event, those pipes are opened up to freely flow whatever crap goes in there. So until we address that and have systems in place that can fix that water quality before it goes into the river, we're really pushing an uphill battle, really. Yeah.
Yeah, just a follow-up question. So in terms of those pipes, what do you think would be a good solution to improve the quality of the water coming out of those pipes?
I think we need to work harder on compliance. So we need to make it known to the industry. And it's not just industry, it's personal properties who are recklessly tipping their shit down the drain. And it's going straight into our waterway. Yeah. So getting people to understand that, clean your brushes and your sink so at least it goes through a treatment system, not tip it out on your street where it goes straight into a stormwater network. So there's a lot of work around messaging, and that's where the Community Waterways Partnership can come in, because we're working together collaboratively, not just in silos, and we can actually start working on sending out the same messaging and getting the messaging across the city to the public, because at the end of the day it's the urban environment that's creating this problem.
And just one more question. I've noticed when getting into my kayak up in Fendleton that the mud in the creek is really deep. It's knee height. Is there a solution to that, to improving that?
Unfortunately, we sit on a city that's the edge of the Waimakariri River, and in the past, before we came along, the Waimak used to cleanse Takaro, and so we don't have that luxury anymore because we'll have a flooded city every 100 years. So the silt is a problem, but silt can be rectified by, again, compliance, making sure developers are not allowing rubbish and stuff coming off their sites. The roading situation. Yeah, so there's things that we can do at source, but again, it's about where's the resources. There's no resources currently. This plan is amazing, and the guys, they've done a great job, and there's heaps of really great action around it, but we've got to resource that action to communicate the solutions. Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Cotter.
Yeah, thank you. Just that's a good segue into my question. So, when you attend the Community Water Partnership meetings, and you come up with ideas or ways to engage with people, because that's all about the at-source stuff through the community. What sort of resourcing, have you got any idea of what you're looking for in quantity, like how much?
No, actually I don't, but I'm sure that the staff involved here could help with answering that question.
So you're picking up at the meeting that that's a great idea, but there's no money to deliver it.
Exactly, yeah. So we're kind of piecemealing comms and things together at the moment. And also it needs someone to drive it. So it really needs a staff member from the council or ECAN to be the driver.
I was going to say, is there any staff?
Yeah, we do currently do. And we're
from ECAN or council?
From the council, but we've also got ECAN involved as well. So we've got a really good steering group that consists of staff from all of our key waterways organisations, ECAN, the council, But I guess it's now we've got a really great plan in place. It's right. Okay, how do we action the plan without resources to do that? Yeah. So to do a really good communication strategy, to do events and things that connect the general public with the idea around.
Yeah.
We're all responsible for. Is that answering your question? Not
Yes,
really.
no, it's great. Because what I'm sensing here too, Mayor Phil, is that we're not kind of getting the connection back from those meetings back through to council here.
Yep, you're
Maybe
getting it today.
Maybe they could come through the...
I'm also here today with my Community Waterways Partnership Steering Group hat on, saying that's the vehicle for which we can tackle the at-source challenges.
Yeah.
And we need to be resourced to do it. Yeah. So when you sign off this plan today, I'd really love for you to put in place some sort of motion to say that you'll commit to resourcing.
You're reading my mind.
Yeah. Excellent.
We can't commit, but we can at least propose.
We'll
Yeah.
at least discuss
Thank
it.
you.
because,
Thank you, Hayley. But please let us all not lose sight of the fact that the council along has spent a very big fortune on stormwater basins like Sparks Road, like what we can now do down at Waitaki Basin, because we've cleared the way for getting it past a wee hiccup that ECAN had. And there's a number of other ones, the ones that have been getting designed out at the very top of the sticks. And that's so they're all good. So we are attacking the big pipes where they come in. I know there's a lot of them, but we are doing something. We're not doing nothing. And we are also likes of that drain through Hagley Park has been tidied up. And there's a litter net, for want of a better word, catching things like that. So we are on it, but it's all with the help with the likes of what you're doing, Hayley, that is making it work well.
So just to summarise though, that's great and it's awesome, but if you don't fix the upstream, it's water flows downstream.
It's done all its life. Yeah. Thank you very much for coming in. Good to see you again.
Thanks.
Okie doke. Next we'll hear from Colleen on behalf of Sustainable Ōtautahi Christchurch, who's also here to speak about item 7. Thank you.
Am I in the right place? Cool.
Yeah, spot on.
Tēnā koutou katoa. I'll just put my glasses on. I'm watching this start time.
Don't panic. You're right.
The first thing I'd like to say is reflecting on what you've just been talking about litter. One of the best things that an urban area can do is sweep the streets more often. And I've been putting that into submissions for several years because it's something that I was made aware of quite some time ago, and I've been trying to push council. So it was really exciting when I saw the response from staff to all of our submissions that it was one of the things that was listed, sweeping the streets. So I really, really want to emphasise that I'd love to see that happening more often. I live in Wainoni. I live in Cuffs Road, between Pages Road and Wainoni Road. The Wainoni Road end is adjacent to Kerrs Reach, the Porritt Park Loop. That stretch of Wainoni Road must be one of the most littered streets in the city. I can walk my dog down 2 blocks and pick up a bag of rubbish. Virtually, like pretty regularly. I don't do it every time I take my dog out. I do it pretty regularly. So a couple of blocks, a bag of rubbish into that rubbish bin, and then down into Avonside Drive, another bag of rubbish to drop off at the landing. If the streets were swept more regularly, it doesn't have to be all of the streets in Christchurch, but the ones that are critical, the ones that are adjacent to the rivers, the ones that are problem areas. I think that stretch of street, it's partly because of Eastgate, but we've also got a population who think that it's okay to dump rubbish out of cars. All sorts of rubbish just turns up on those main arterial routes. I would like to respond to the response to our submission a little bit more. I wasn't thinking of a booklet when I was talking about making people more aware and more enabled to do on-site solutions. A booklet might be great, and Genevieve, who I think is a full-time worker from council, who works with community, the Waterways Partnership, I'm sure she will put a booklet together if she's asked to do so. But that's not what I was talking about. I was talking about enabling people to actually do stuff on site. So maybe things like interest-free loans for rain harvesting tanks, maybe incentives for homeowners when they're changing their drive to move to a permeable surface rather than another asphalt or concrete surface, things like that. And I don't have all the answers about how council could enable that, but I would like you to think about it. But the main thing I want to talk about today is, in my submission, I talk about when you do nature-based solutions and designing them really well. We strongly at Sustainable Otutahi Christchurch and other organisations I talk to strongly support nature-based solutions. There's a multitude of advantages, but you do have to design them well. And when I'm talking about designing them well, I'm really talking about designing them for wildlife. We don't need any more dog parks around Christchurch. We don't need to make a new wetland into a dog park. And one of the things that we do at the moment is we put in a design which seems to be pretty standard. It's a circular ring road around the outside with a road through the middle. And if you want an example of it, one that I go to regularly is Clare Park. Do you all know Clare Park? Burwood Road. I think it was attached to the housing developments in that area. So it's between like QE2 Drive, Burwood Road. You go in and sort of down a little side road, and there's a constructed wetland in the back of a recreational park. That's the ring road around the outside and a road through the middle. There's Marsh Crake there. Marsh Crake. And a couple of years ago, my friends at Birds NZ told me there were marsh crake there. So for the last 2 years, I've been trying to go and see them. It was a bucket list bird for me. I've never seen a marsh crake. I'm never going to see one at Clare Park, I don't think. The last time I was there was a big ruckus. I was standing, looking out over the wetland, trying to spot the marsh crake. The big ruckus on the other side. All the birds in the middle of the wetland lifted. I go round the corner, this dog comes charging towards me. It's a woman who's going around the ring road with her, plastic throwy thing. She's using it as a racetrack for her dog. There is no way that the birds are going to be safe and secure and stress-free in a situation like that. And it doesn't have to be that way. There are some really, really, really good designs that can be used. And I want to channel my friend Celia King. She's in Birds NZ, she's also in the Estuary Trust, and she has travelled extensively. She's looked at exemplars, she's done a lot of research on this. And so she could actually, we have people who know about this stuff. And Celia and I would both like to say that if there's anyone other than councillors, if we could get together with anyone, any influence on this kind of design stuff, implementation of these things, we'd love to talk about those kinds of better designs that you could use. Now, I want to emphasise here that I'm actually a dog owner. I adore my dog. I'm dog mad, and I live a dog owner lifestyle, and I love Christchurch because of the fact that I can. It's a wonderful city to be a dog owner, but there are so many places already that I can take my dog and have a wonderful time. I don't need to go somewhere where we could have marsh crake and bittern. There are 600 bittern travelling around the country trying to find a safe place to live. And in Christchurch, we could provide that. We used to be a swamp. This used to be swamp. We have the capacity to have places where we could bring more bittern in. We do have some around Christchurch. But what do? We create more dog parks. Moving on. I want to contrast that with a recent trip I did to Nelson. I went to the Birds NZ conference 3 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago in Nelson. The field trip I went to was to the wastewater plant, the poo ponds, and went in with a guided group in there, 25 of us. We're walking around. Now they have their oxidation ponds, and they have 2 constructed wetlands sort of adjacent to each other. And then beyond the wetlands, there's a nice tall fence, and beyond that, there's a lot of open ground where people can walk and run their dogs. We're going around that ring road, looking out over that big high fence, and there's a guy with a bull terrier cross walking his dog through there, having a lovely time. We're on the safe side of the fence, on the wetland side. And we're just going around a bend, and the 2 young boys at the head of our field trip group turned around and said, "Marsh crake, marsh crake, marsh crake." Great excitement. And 25 people, we stood on the side of the wetland watching a marsh crake about 6 metres away from us for about 40 minutes. It was so wonderful. 40 minutes standing there, photos, clicking cameras. It was so magical. We got to the after the trip, I found out that about half the people on that trip had never seen a marsh crake before. They went wild on social media, I'm told. Now imagine the interest that will be now, from now on, for birders going to Nelson to get a guided trip through the Nelson poo ponds because they could see a marsh crake. That there could be huge economic advantages for us pursuing this, for actually making safe places for these birds. These birds are special. They deserve help. Now, another thing that Celia wants to say to you is that doing it better, making it more safer and better for wildlife, could be a cheaper option as well. So even fiscally, it could be worthwhile. But I want to also emphasise that I'm not saying keep people away from these areas. People need to connect with nature, and that's what the story about Nelson is about. When people connect with nature and they learn to love these things and they really want to protect them, they do need to. But there are ways you can design that people can engage with these areas. Bird hides is one really good example. Sometimes you could even have the dogs, but we don't need to have dogs in the sort of random way that we have them in so many places around Christchurch. The sign, dogs under effective control at Clare Park, is a nonsense. It's a nonsense. Effective control is probably making sure your dog doesn't go too far into the wetland that it needs a bath afterwards. So I'm sorry, did I sound a bit bitter then? I want to just finally finish up with saying something that Hayley referenced, and she used the word compliance quite often. When you're talking about dog owners and other behaviours from people, sometimes education just isn't enough. Sometimes a little bit of compliance would go a long, long way. I managed a conservation project on the Lower Heathcote for 5 years. I had so many conversations with dog owners. Look, honestly, one council officer giving one fine would have done more work than I managed in all of the conversations I had. Seriously. Thank you.
Thank
Sorry,
you very
I
much.
haven't left any time for questions.
Managed to use up all your time, but thank you very much for making the effort to come in. Very much appreciated. Thank you. Okay, now what we have got is Sam Broughton coming in, but I know he's not going to be here until just before 11, so I'll start moving on and get through some other things, and then when Sam gets here. So presentation of petitions, we have none today, so we'll move to our supplementary report and confirmation of. Yep, Sam's happy. Councillor, yes, McDonald and Councillor Cotter, happy to move. And second, that is to include the PX supplementary and item 16. Oh, yes. Getting ahead of myself. Move and second, the PX supplementary, item 16, extraordinary Christchurch Civic Award. Move and second for that. All those in favour? Against? Thank you. Carried. Now can I get a mover and second to receive the Central